Hi there, Sam here, and welcome to my channel. Today I want to talk about something that's been on my mind a lot more than usual, and it is mental health. And I do talk a lot about mental health here, but in particular, I want to talk about anxiety. If you met me before the pandemic, you would know that I know a lot of people that have anxiety, but I had a really hard time relating to them. I personally have ADHD and seasonal depression. But disordered anxiety is something that I'm probably the least comfortable dealing with when I see it in somebody else. I had no relation to disordered anxiety. But when March came along and I saw that it hit Boston and that one of the first breakouts at the Biogen conference was in Seaport, which also happened to be where I was when I saw one of my clients, and we were talking about how it's probably not a big deal, and I was suddenly not fine. I felt myself reeling, out of control, and I'm used to feeling a little out of control with my thoughts for ADHD, but this was different. This one, I felt depressed. I couldn't stop scrolling, reading news article after news article, and it didn't make me feel better. I know it doesn't, but I was doing it. And when I saw my boyfriend to tell him what was going on, I didn't feel like I was in control. It was really scary. This was a type of mental health thing that I've never dealt with before. And even worse, I don't really see anybody talking about it. And we all know it's happening, but nobody's talking about it. Why? We need to be talking about this. If we're all going through this and this is hurting us, we need to. I think we want to try to leave it to the experts, and I'm totally for that. I want to leave as much as I can to the experts to figure out how to handle this. The reality is, this is our first pandemic for almost all of us. We don't know how to handle this. There are no answers to the things I'm anxious about. There might be pieces of knowledge that I don't have just because I'm not all-knowing. And I'm going to be learning more about how I operate as I go, and I have been. And the one thing I do know is that I really, really like comforting myself. And luckily, I have nowhere to go, so having to stay in and cuddle up under a bunch of big fuzzy blankets is perfectly acceptable right now. But seriously, if you're feeling anxious at all during this time, and you've never experienced anxiety in your life before like this, it makes sense. It doesn't mean that it's healthy, but it makes sense. And I feel for that too. I can say this. One thing that I have noticed is that when I start to slow myself down is when I start to feel better. Which, as a person with ADHD, that's really hard. I'm used to talking super fast all the time. Even as I make these videos, I have to slow myself down constantly. Because I'm afraid if I talk the way that you normally do, I'll start tripping over my words and you won't be able to understand what I say, and this is really scary, and I don't know how I'm feeling more anxious. But I never felt anxious about doing that before. It was just how I operated. But when the way that you normally operate is suddenly causing more disordered things, it's terrifying in a way. Fully recognize that I'm extremely privileged to be able to say the things I'm about to say. But I cannot thank my therapist enough. She has gotten me through hell and back over the past 6 years. And she was my very first therapist as an adult. I fully recognize I won the therapist lottery. And I know a lot of people that haven't. It's really hard. I also think it's to my advantage that I'm constantly naturally interested in reflecting into myself and why I operate the way I do. And I'm also super thankful that the negative self-talk that I've had in my youth has gone away a lot because I've done so much work cutting it down. Go away, thought. You don't belong here. Stay in your corner. Yeah. It really was only the past 3 years that I've really done a good job quieting that negative talk. I had a voice that was very, very painful to listen to. When I was in college, I had an entire folder of notepad files of just me when I was so angry at myself, so overwhelmed, so ready to be done with school, that I just gave myself as many insults as I could hurl at myself to convince myself to work harder. Weirdly enough, it worked, but that was so not healthy. That was the worst of it, and it hasn't come back since. Thank God. But the fact of the matter is, there's probably people out there, like you, that aren't as fortunate. You do have a negative self-talk. You question that self-talk. And sometimes that self-talk might be right. A little bit. But that doesn't mean that you should give all of your power to that voice. There are so many other voices in your head, not to sound like a crazy person, that you should be giving more of your attention to. And I want that. Like, people are awesome. Have you seen that curve? It's so beautiful. It's gone down. We couldn't have done that. We're awesome. What I find is that the voice that wants me to be cutting myself down is doing so for very irrational reasons. It's not always easy to see that when you're anxious or paranoid or feeling like you aren't really worth thinking about. And even if you don't believe it now, I will say it now. You matter. You matter so much. And yes, maybe the world is burning right now. That doesn't mean you have to go down with it. But if it's really hard to get up right now and you don't have to go anywhere yet, you can rest for a little bit. That's okay. But we do gotta get back up. You may not want to get back up right now. You can take that time. Indulge. No one's gonna be watching you anyways. This is like the big bar version. I ate all of this for lunch. It wasn't my lunch, but I ate it for lunch. I have no regrets. Let yourself get wrapped up in that comfort. I'm noticing when I get super anxious, I need that comfort even more. Since it seems to get triggered so much easier than it used to. I've noticed that I get triggered with my anxiety when someone's screaming. My internet drops sometimes. My boyfriend yells at the computer. When I see people do dumb things about the coronavirus. Please wear a mask. They're actually pretty cute sometimes. Or when my own self-imposed deadlines are way too freaking tight and I'm not gonna make it. Do you know that I wrote an entire first draft of a book in less than 3 weeks? That's insane! And I bet you that people do this all the time. I've never seen it like this for myself, and I hope I never have to after this. I hope this goes down and is not a lifelong thing for me. I have amazing people on my medical team, and they will help me through that if it is. Wow, guys. People with anxiety this whole time. I really feel for you now. I think I get it. I'm so sorry you've had to deal with all of this. And I'm here for you. Because I care about every single one of you. Bye for now. When the pandemic broke out and stay-at-home advisory started back in March, I realized that I had gone through a very similar thing with isolation literally a year ago. I had torn my ACL and had to leave the city in the apartment that I knew and loved, all of my friends in it, to go live with my family in a town that they had just moved to, just so I could recover. And I had to learn a lot about connecting with people from far away during that time. So this really just felt like a do-over in my head. And that had me realize that there's a lot of people that could benefit what I learned the first time around when I was isolated. I learned a lot about connecting during that time that I would have never learned otherwise, and it's been really helpful for me this time around. And I've been using a lot of that to write a book during this time. That book releases in June. But giving out a chance to get a free copy on my email list. If you're interested in learning the lessons that I learned about connecting with myself, with other people, and the world at large, go to snugglewithsam.com/Sam's book and get on my email list to get your chance at a free copy today. And as always, I care about every single one of you. Bye for now.